Okay, just a couple housekeeping items, and then I'll jump into the story. But I wanted to just make sure that everyone was aware of how appreciative I am of these numbers and stats. First of all, never seen 829%, 800% increase in views, 833% increase in watch time. So it's clear. I've got the backing of the Salty Army. Slowly but surely, you're finding out about this channel and you're subscribing and liking and watching. And so I appreciate that. Up 150 some odd subs tonight after the Salty stream. So again, thank you to the Salty Cracker, to Mrs. Salty, to the Salty Army ourselves, because we, our Legion. So all that to say, thank you for looking at the BitChute, the Gab, the YouTube, the Odyssey. If you're not on Odyssey yet, and if you missed the stream, then you missed Salty Cracker announcing, maybe a soft announcement, that he will be doing daily live streams on Odyssey once they have their live stream beta up and running. So, if you're looking for the Salty stream daily, it will happen, and it will happen on Odyssey. So if you don't have an account there yet, what are you doing? Go get an account on Odyssey. Go create an account like you had on YouTube or on Twitter or on any other. You can post videos. You can just post anything else like comments on other people's pages. You can subscribe and support, and so I would recommend you do that. I would ask you to do that, please. All that aside, this is the story that I wanted to share. So if you live in Michigan, if like I do, then you are still wondering if your vote truly counted the way that you wanted it to. And that's supposed to be a right of yours. So if you can't prove that your vote counted, you can't prove that your rights really exist. Michigan election officials are now being ordered to hand over any records of communication that they had had with tech giants and Dominion Voting Systems as a company. So as you can imagine, this will include Facebook and Google. Any communication that any election officials had, they have to turn over because, as the article says, the election was marred with credible fraud allegations. Antrim County Circuit Judge Kevin Elsenheimer is forcing Michigan election officials to produce all communication that they had had with Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple. Interesting. So Apple devices may be in question for the 2020 election. Now, I'm not questioning the outcome of the election. I am questioning the communication from the state officials, just to be clear. YouTube. Antrim County is the place where the only reason any fraud was uncovered was because there was a guy who was desperate to see marijuana get passed, legalized through his vote, and he saw it not get passed by a single vote. And so he looked and he was like, how is it 659 to 658 when we only have 800 voters, whatever the numbers were? These are, for anecdote's sake, the numbers that I'm pulling from thin air to prove the point that this is what happened. More votes were cast than people were able to cast votes. He uncovers it, some pothead that just wants weed legalized. Can't blame him. And then he says, hey, all these votes, if they were on this dumb provisional, weed thing for our county, then why wouldn't I also assume they're also casting dummy votes for other elected positions? Albeit the president or the governor or whomever else would have been on the ballot this past election, which obviously in this case was the presidency. So if the vote for your weed thing was fake, and he can prove that, then he can prove the votes for the presidency in some way, if they were counted, were also fake. Again, not saying that this would change the outcome of the election, but you don't know if you don't look. So Antrim County became big news. You remember, you heard about it. Now, Antrim County judge is forcing everyone in the state who had anything to do with the election, if they were an official, presiding over any office to do with the election, all of their communications turned over. He orders the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, and the Bureau of Elections to produce communications with Dominion Voting Systems, an election source, the companies responsible for computerized voting systems in Antrim County and much of the state. So someone, it looks like Judge Honorable Kevin Elsenheimer, is not willing to let this go yet. He's going to dig and get to the bottom of this. I want to see the communication. Have you talked to these companies? Did they instruct you on what to do or how to do it? And if so, that's a crime, and we're going to get you. That's what the Honorable Kevin Elsenheimer says, I would assume, because that's what the action says. Actions speak louder than words. I don't need his quote. I have the filing. They say attorney Matthew S. DePerno and his client, Bill Bailey, are the patriots who sued to get these records produced. They hope this is the beginning of real transparency regarding the vast amount of irregularities, anomalies in the voting systems that occurred on Election Day in Michigan and other battleground states across the country. I saw a meme today. It said, in the 1970s, a mother would say, look at the people in Russia or China and be happy that you have freedom. And now the 2021 mother says, look at the people in Michigan and California and just be happy that you have freedom. Not false. I'm in Michigan. We don't feel free. I'm working from home every day. My day job is done right here in this same chair. Not fun. Benson had funds available to her to spend on training counties. This is Jocelyn Benson. She has money that she could have spent to train people on how to deal with fake ballots, fraudulent ballots, or just simply how to use the system. Didn't spend any. It is the plaintiff's understanding that the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, your hero, spent $0 training people. Instead, she spent all of that money and resources installing the Zuckerberg boxes, right? The so-called Zucker boxes throughout Michigan, including Wayne County, Ann Arbor, Flint, Lansing, Muskegon, Pontiac, and Saginaw. You folks don't know this. Maybe you don't know this. But if you're in Michigan and you wanted to name the 6 or 7 most populated black areas of the state, you would do this. You would say Wayne County, Ann Arbor, Saginaw, Flint, maybe Lansing, definitely Muskegon, Pontiac, Cadillac, maybe, Saginaw. The blackest areas of Michigan are those. And so they put Zuckerberg boxes, the Facebook drop your ballot off boxes, in the black neighborhoods, and then went and counterfeited every ballot and every name and every non-name and every non-ballot they needed to. And if you questioned it, you were racist. That's how they worked this. Can you believe that? If you asked for voter ID in those areas, they said black people don't have IDs. And if you asked them to produce one, you were a racist. But if you ask those black people, they would say, of course I have an ID. What are you stupid? What are you slow? Yeah, of course I have an ID. It is the plaintiff's understanding that she spent $0 on training and spent all of it on the Zuckerberg boxes in conjunction with Facebook, Dominion, the Center for Tech and Civic Life, Google, Amazon, and Apple. All of them together plus Dominion. So everyone who is openly showing their bias, plus the company who's supposed to be completely objective and in control of the vote. Don't even need to go any further with this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for the support for the channel, for liking these videos, for sharing them out. The sharing, I think, is the biggest piece we need to work on because the growth could not be more stagnant. I think there's 20 new subscribers every day and maybe 1 or 2 that drop. And that would be expected if you had only a couple hundred subs, because that was the pattern that we had when we were still under 1,000 subscribers. Being now at 3,500, 3,600 after the salty stream tonight, maybe 3,700, you should be expecting 50 to 60 new subscribers a day. YouTube has flatlined the growth here unless we are being militant about it. Hell, James Charles will get 1 million new subscribers every month on his makeup tutorial channel just because they're subscribing accounts that don't know that they're subscribed. You know this, right? If you're inactive on your YouTube account, you can go back in and find that you've been subbed to all of these corporate accounts that they need to pad. So they'll find an account that hasn't been active in a week and subscribe it to an account that they'll never see, padding that number. We don't get that favoritism here, so do everything else that you can do after you share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel on all major platforms. Major platforms. Nix that. All tech platforms is what I meant to say. If you're doing those things, then you're doing everything else that you can do to keep America afloat.